Hello, ladies. Welcome to the Chapter Strategic Planning Process for PDCs webinar. This is Ella Gomer, Ella Gomer Vieira. Let me start that over again. Your producer for the night. And we've got Angela DeSalvo and Alicia Soto presenting. Before we start the presentation, I want to take a moment to make sure that you're all aware of the webinar control panel over on the right. The most important piece here is going to be the questions pane. As you guys ask questions throughout the webinar, I can either answer them or relay them to Alicia and Angela. But make sure that if you have anything that comes up along the way, feel free to answer it, and we'll get to it as soon as we can. Please be sure to stay attentive and interact as much as possible. And there's only a small group here on the webinar tonight, so we should be able to be pretty interactive and get everybody a really good answers with any questions that you have. If you do need to step away for a moment, don't close the window because it'll make you log out. You'll have to log back in again. And we are recording this presentation, so it should be up in just a few days for you guys to watch in case there's anything that you missed. And with that, I'm going to hand the virtual microphone over to Angela.
Hi, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us and taking time out of your evening. Tonight, Alicia and I am Angela DeSalvo again. I'm Region 7, and Alicia Soto is Region 1, RDCs. We're going to take a few minutes to go through the VPO process and the documents. And we've been working on this for those of you who are returning PDCs for a couple of years. But tonight, we thought we would show you all of the documents in the order of which the VPO will be using them to see if that makes it a little more seamless, et cetera. Because I kind of always liken this to sort of like the algebra teacher who has been working in algebra for so long and teaches something to the classmates. It's a nice, sort of fresh new perspective for us as the teachers, so hopefully it will make sense, is kind of what I'm getting at. We're going to go through the dashboard, which Alicia will explain to you, the survey and survey report, which I will explain. We're going to just kind of go back and forth, and we're going to just talk about how that feeds into the goals, leadership days, guidelines, etc. So those are the process of the chapter strategic plan. And then the other two things that VPOs we want you to be aware of for your VPOs are their leadership guide and what to do with their leadership consultant and when the leadership consultant comes. So we'll go through all of that stuff tonight, and we'll try and be very respectful of your time and go from there. So I want to kind of also next slide. Okay, there it is. We want to talk about sort of the theory behind this chapter strategic plan. And I think some of you might remember LAP or even MAP before that. Different things that we had our VPOs doing, just sort of to set goals and survey the chapter and things like that. But from our perspective as working women, it wasn't quite real, like what's happening in the real world. And so this strategic plan gives the chapter a roadmap to follow and setting goals and then meeting and achieving those goals. And hopefully that will in turn improve chapter functioning. So the process starts with the chapter survey, which everyone takes in the whole chapter. That feeds into a report form, which leads into making chapter goals, and then that helps with officer transitions, master calendars, and ultimately determining, the chapter budget and also then the health and inner workings of the chapter. So hopefully that is kind of clear as to what our theory was on this. So go ahead, I'll let Alicia take it over.
Hi guys, thanks for joining us tonight. So we are going to go into our interactive demo part of this webinar. I'm hoping you all can see my computer here. You can see the Chapter website. So I just want to quickly show you guys, once you log into your profile, under the more resource section, all the documents that we'll go through tonight are under the chapter VPO section. So these are truly the area that we're looking to work with you on tonight and help you guys to understand and be prepared to help the chapters with. So the first document that Angela mentioned that we'll start with is the dashboard, because that really gives you a layout of where the chapters will start. So first tab is the instructions. I point this out because, while silly, right, I think it's one of the areas that sometimes our chapter women can sometimes skip over and just run to the dashboard and think that they are ready to go. A couple key things I think about the dashboard for them to understand, though, is that it's just intended to outline all the steps as part of the program, but it's not actually a report that they're going to submit. It's a live checklist, so they can go through and check things as they're completed. It's got some nice fancy conditional formatting and things like that in there for them, so it helps direct them and guide their eyes where it needs to go. And it really lists out all the chapter responsibilities. But really in this section up here, and as you can see in this section that I've highlighted, how to activate this dashboard. This is one of the important things. There's places built in, we'll see in a minute, in order to put the date of your election night and help you kind of guide through the timeline, and so that you can kind of type through. And then it tells you, again, how to track it. So, again, silly as it may be, we need them to understand this piece of it, of how to use it in order to actually use it. So going over to the dashboard. On the dashboard here, like I mentioned, it kind of lays out everything that the chapter will need to do in this chapter strategic plan. And that's why we start here, so that you guys can get an idea of how to work with them and making sure they see the overall picture as a chapter VPO. Like I said here, you can start by entering a date. So maybe the chapter election process is October 1st. They can enter that, and then from there, they should add the date. So write 7 days later, etc. Originally, when we had created this document, it did auto-populate the dates. However, a lot of our chapters expressed not wanting that, because sometimes you have a fall break in there or something, and it doesn't actually go week to week. But this is kind of where this needs to start, so you know what you're doing in week 1. And again, as you walk through it, you see week 1, and it's telling you what areas that you need to focus on, along with talking about the pillars, kind of, that Angela spoke about, the different areas of this plan that it'll affect. So using week 1 as the example on how to use this document, you will see the first thing says, the survey is sent out to the entire chapter membership by the outgoing VPO. So again, exactly who needs to do it, and then it will give you the reference. If there's a document that goes with it, it will tell you the name of the document. Again, going back to our website, you now know that you need to use this document, the chapter survey. So that's exactly how that will work. So back to the dashboard. When you're done, they can check it off, and you'll see it goes gray. So it's done. You can move on. At the same time, this survey is going out, the new officers are being elected, and so again, the leadership guide, and you can check it off. And then it'll proceed to walk through the various weeks, giving the resources and the activity that can be indicated as you move along that they've been completed, and referencing the area of the overall strategic plan that it addresses. Up here you've got the notes in terms of the owners and in terms of what it means. So again, this document, well, the VPO is the one who houses it. The president, the treasurer, other people have pieces in this, so they'll need to own it. Just again, making sure people understand the different abbreviations that are in this document. So this is our first document, and really should set the stage for any chapter VPO as they're completing their to-do list throughout the year of their term, that they'll be able to check all of these things off, and really they should be able to look back on their year and have every box checked off, knowing that it was complete, matching the dates and the events that were happening. So that's our first document. Angela, do you want to talk to us about the survey?
Sure. Thank you. Show my screen. Okay, thank you. So I have 2 documents I'm going to talk about quickly. The first is the chapter survey. I'm going to try and make it a little bit bigger. And I think you guys are pretty familiar with the purpose of this. Obviously, the purpose is to, can everyone hear me? This is like my, yep. Okay, thank you. something was flashing on my computer. So the purpose of this is not changed from before, and that is that we want to understand how each member of the fraternity, or I'm sorry, of the chapter feels. How are we performing as a chapter in standards? How are we performing as a chapter in leadership? How are we performing in member commitment? And so the VPO distributes this chapter survey on election night, and we say election night because there is so much downtime during counting that, and during that, the members rate the chapter on a scale of 1 to 5, and it tells you right up here at the top. I'm going to highlight as well, you know, where the scale is. 5 is excellent, 3 is good, etc. So they put their scores in here. So let's say that they feel that standards is 5 all the way down, and then all the way down here at the bottom. Oh no, we took that out. Sorry guys. The score, you can total it up by highlighting, and you can see over here the sum is 25. You guys all know how to work Excel, etc. But we want them to be putting in how they feel the chapter is doing on these areas, and then typing in comments. We rock at standards. Or I wish we could do something new with morale, you know, whatever. We want to get their feedback. So we've got standards, we have leadership, member commitment, recruitment, risk management, and finance, chapter management, academic excellence, campus and community involvement, and programming. And these are the 10 areas that we really feel that each chapter should be working on, focusing on, etc., in order to have a good, healthy chapter experience. So then this document gets tallied, and I'm going to open up another document here, which is the, chapter survey results document. I'm going to try and make that a little bit bigger too. And then in there, it is all the same 10 categories. So you can see standards again, leadership in the exact same order, all the way down to membership. I'm going to just scroll down so you can see it. Recruitment, risk management, finance. And we go all the way down to programming. And then you can see, I'm going to go right back up here to standards. How many 5s did you get? How many 4s did they get? How many 3s did we get? And then, I'm sorry, this is the document that auto-populates the scores. So you can see across the board how many we got. We also want to know how many freshmen are in your chapter this year, how many sophomores are in your chapter this year, and just this is the point of this is, you know, to keep track of, everything. What we're looking for when I'm reading this, for example, as an RDC, is which scores are outliers, for lack of a better word. So let's say they gave all 5s to one category and all 0s to another category, then I'm hoping that the chapter council, through guiding them, will use these results and the fact that maybe one area has a lower score to write up and work on their goals. And so that is, like I said, that's the point of this, right, is to drive our goal setting. First, they use the other document to take the pulse of the chapter, and then secondly, we use this document to report on it. Something that has been brought up in the past is, why isn't this electronic yet? We're working on it, and I'm sorry, that's the answer we have right now. So we're working on it, and we will hopefully get there soon. Some chapters have put all the questions into SurveyMonkey. I don't know. I'm not going to advocate that one way or the other because I do not know how time-consuming that is. But it's a thought. And then from here, Alicia is going to talk about the goal-setting document. And I'm done.
All right. I'm going to talk to you guys about the goal template here. So as Angela mentioned in her describing the chapter survey, all of those things should help lead towards making goals. And this is really where you guys as PDCs have a vested interest in interacting with the chapter in this area for multiple reasons, and really where we as RDCs expect that you as PDCs will interact with the chapter when you are looking at this chapter strategic plan. So again, this will indicate the school year, the academic year, instructions at the top kind of going through it. but more importantly, this area here talking about goals. So Angela's example of sisterhood was doing poorly, and people are looking for more things in morale. You might have a goal that says increase morale. But as we all know, right, you want to have goals that are actionable items behind it that aren't just general, that really you can lay out a step so you know that you will be able to complete them, that they're realistic. So you might say, they might say one sisterhood event per month. And this, again, target completion, that might be, the whole year. So this might just be the school year. The first one might be, sisterhood award at first chapter in spring. And then this might be sisterhood award first chapter in fall. And so again, putting completion dates here as they go through for their information and making sure that they have this kind of indicated as they're going back and looking at their information. And also kind of giving them an idea of where this falls in. Is it that morale is poor and so maybe chapter commitment is down? This is a standards thing. They can mark in the box what area of chapter program this is affecting. And then they want to give themselves a progress report. So as they're ending towards the end of the academic year, saying, sisterhood events completed except, one in April, for example. And then again, going as they go back into the beginning of the school year too, indicating it, and then the final assessment of where they were by the outgoing chapter council. And so this is really relevant because if this document fills out, they can turn it over to the new chapter council and they will have an idea of where the old chapter council was and kind of where their progress was. But more importantly, these progress reports, 1 and 2, is where you guys as PDCs need tracking and checking in with them. So it really, in this example, it would be our expectation that you as PDCs are reaching out to them after you have, you have this, you have maybe like a tickler on your calendar, go to your school saying, I want to check in, you guys, where are you in goals? I know I've seen you had, a bunch of sisterhood events. I'm not sure that you're able to get them done every month, but kind of where you stand. Can you give me an update of your progress that you filled out on your goal template? And that's really where your chance is to interact with them to help them, support them in achieving their goals. And then certainly if it's a goal for an area that of chapter programming that, becomes a topic of conversation or is a continuing topic of conversation, maybe a weakness for the chapter, you can continue to set the expectation that you're talking about it with them and that they understand what the expectation of CAPA is. Should there any, be something that comes up later down the road. So this is the goal template. Angela, do you want to talk a little bit about the Leadership Day?
Sure. That would be great. Okay, show me screen. Oops. I have a lot of windows open. I was ready. Okay, sorry guys. There it is. So as we mentioned, the goal setting occurs kind of at the end of a term, and also what needs to happen at the end of a term is transition from one council to the next. This Leadership Day agenda is called a sample Leadership Day agenda for a reason, because it may not work for your chapters that you're working with, but we did want to have a tool out there. Again, this isn't the end-all be-all, but it is a tool to help out with Leadership Day. And we really put a lot of time and thought into this in thinking of what is the purpose of Leadership Day, how do we schedule it, who should be there, what are some resources, etc. And so this is just one sheet. You can see I'm kind of scrolling down, one sheet of a possible agenda. And the instructions are right here. So this particular day we've laid out as one whole day with a break, but we also have broken it into modules, which you can see. I'll point that out in 1 second. Module 1, Module 2. So here it says Leadership Day Module 1, Leadership Day Module 2, and then at the bottom, Leadership Day Module 3, and that's for those chapters who maybe can't do an entire leadership day, but can do a couple of modules for joint chapter councils or whatever sort of smaller, shorter training. And still covering the information because it's still very important, but maybe not spending an entire day on it if they really can't fit that into their schedule. So really briefly, on the left is the topic. You can see here are the topics. We estimated minutes, and this may or may not be the same for your chapters, but we estimated minutes just sort of to help with planning. And then again, over here, suggested presenters. So you're going to have welcomes and introductions, team building, all of that stuff. Will be the topics that you cover, and then who could possibly present. So you can see the first module is sort of like getting to know you, and within that are triplet meetings. But I want you to hold on to that concept in a second. I think you all probably know what a triplet meeting is, but just hold on to that in 1 second. We'll talk about that in 1 second. The second module is more like fraternity resources, etc. And then the third module is more like chapter-specific, chapter management, risk management, etc. So just really, we try to break it up into 3 pieces. And then also something that we try to think about is who is leading it, like I said. So previous officers, outgoing officers, CAPA trainers, if you can get one, etc. And also sometimes maybe even the Greek life advisor or fraternity and sorority life office, whatever they call it on the campus of which you're working with. Maybe even someone from there would be a good presenter. It just kind of depends on the topics at hand or the need for that chapter for that year. So keep those things in mind. And then the other thing that came up about Leadership Day, I'm just going to go back up to the top, is some chapters complained, why does the old council need to be there for the entire day? Well, that's probably going to be an individual decision with you and the chapter councils and advisors that you're working with. From my perspective, I like the old advisors to be there, the old or the outgoing officers to be there for as long as possible, because it just does help with a more seamless transition. But I do understand that our women are very busy, and if that's not possible, then maybe we move up everything where you need an outgoing officer and an incoming officer. Maybe you move that all to the beginning of the day so that those outgoing officers who are not continuing on council can excuse themselves. Just something to think about. And a really important piece of having the incoming and the outgoing, like I said, is the triplet meetings. So I'm going to show you that document here. So here are the triplet meeting document. This really hasn't changed that much. Just kind of a checklist. You want, I'm trying to make it a little bigger. There we go. You want your outgoing, your incoming officer, and your advisor as much as possible to be present. And you want to go through quick things like the leadership guide, the officer's role, committee responsibilities, etc. One thing that I felt was really always helpful when I was doing this as an active was, what do I wish that I had known before taking this office from the person who was in front of me? Just a couple of quick checklist items, and then everyone signs it, and you can see that here at the bottom. So that is the triplet meeting. The triplet meeting does need to occur. It doesn't necessarily have to happen on Leadership Day, but it does need to occur. So Alicia will now talk about the calendar, and then we will talk about a couple of other things after that.
All right, everybody, we're going to pull up the calendar here. Let me zoom in so it's easier to see. So the calendar kind of wraps up the general pieces of the chapter strategic plan document. So we'll touch on some of the other VPO documents as well. But in terms of the calendar report, obviously one of the main responsibilities of our VPOs is to create a chapter calendar. And so in this chapter calendar document that we created during this process, we really felt like there were multiple reports there that really didn't need to be, and we needed to condense them. And in that, we needed to be really strategic in how we laid out the dates, We bucketed them and made sure that they could check things off and put dates here and knew what needed to be filled and what not to be filled, or could be a maybe. And really here, highlighting step instruction 4, that any time a date is highlighted in bright yellow and that is changed by the chapter, they need to resubmit it to headquarters, their BPO advisor, their PDC, and their RDC, because these are a lot of those dates that all of us are tracking on a regular basis, and we need to make sure we know them.
Can I interrupt?
So, yep.
Alicia, I'm so sorry. I have a black screen for you. Is yours showing?
Oh,
Ella, is that showing?
Can you see it now?
I can see her screen.
Oh, maybe it's just me. Okay.
It's just you. I think the other ladies can see too. They're telling me they can.
Sorry.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry, Anne.
No, it's okay. And this tab too, obviously, that I skipped for a second after my nice little info to you guys on reading instructions, would start here. So again, I know this is a little small, but reading it highlights the 4 required meeting types, the required events, and all of them are here on this calendar report. So they can go through, they can enter it, their to and from date. Everything, the first section is bucketed to university and Greek life dates. The section is all on key chapter dates and making sure that we have all of that information, again, with some highlighted yellow ones so that we know that those are happening or that those are, we know when they are changed. Again, yes or no in terms of, is there a formal meeting scheduled every month? Is there an informal meeting, committee meeting, program meeting? This one here talks about the new member program under chapter programs, and you can put in day there, and you can also then put in initiation, and you will see that it will automatically show up to them that this is only 3.4 weeks worth of a new member program, which, as we all know, is expected that it's 6 to 8 weeks our new member program. That is what our documents outline and what our instructions, and they need to make comments on why, and obviously also request permission or for the exception from the Director of Membership. So again, this is where these documents are really designed to make it a little bit more foolproof for everybody to use and making sure they're keeping track of everything, things that sometimes kind of slip through your head. Next section is the chapter strategic plan, right? In this whole thing, as we saw, there's a lot of dates of things that have to happen, including the chapter election process, setting goals, the officer transition and leadership day that Angela went through, creating a chapter calendar and a chapter budget. And then the last section here is other required calendar items that need to be checked off. And this for us, again, is about helping remind to make sure we include everything on a calendar. So publishing a newsletter, making sure that any philanthropy things are going on, et cetera, making sure that there are the correct programs. Maybe there needs to be facilities orientation for all of our chapters that are housed. That should be happening, et cetera. And the goal after this report is filled out is really to be able to translate it onto, an everyday calendar and put that information on there. And if you're following this report, you will have everything that you need and everything that's required of the fraternity to be sure that's on a chapter calendar. So they should be filling this whole thing out, and like we said before, sending it to headquarters or VPO, PDC, and RDC, and it's due April 1st. If you guys need to see the ones from last year for this coming year, they are on the cloud, and you should have access to them as PDCs, so you can see this report for the previous year. And you all know that this document is really important for us in terms of scheduling our leadership consultant. So Angela will talk to us a little bit more about our leadership guide and leadership consultant document.
Okay. So I am going to talk about leadership consultant first, which I just had that. So with a leadership consultant visit is something that the VPO helps plan. This document that I just pulled up on my screen is available in the exact same place as Alicia showed y'all earlier under the VPO resources. And so the VPO helps plan the leadership consultant visit, like I just mentioned. Oops, sorry. And Part of that, though, that I want you guys to make sure that you can convey to your VPOs is that she doesn't have to hang out with or entertain the leadership consultant every single waking minute. In fact, she should have a lot of help from her chapter council members. And so I think sometimes that gets a little bit lost, where the VPO will say, but I don't have time to host someone for an entire week. Well, you don't have to host them for an entire week. You just have to plan their visit. So you guys probably have already been receiving some emails, et cetera, from the leadership consultant. And so it goes like this. The leadership consultant sends a save the date to the chapter, should be copying you and advisors. And then she'll send a separate email to you, the PDC, and copy your RDC, asking for a preview. So you will need to help fill that out as a PDC, but the VPO, et cetera, will not be on that email. So just keep that in mind. Those will be separate. And then the VPO goes through and organizes details of the visit. The chapter needs to host her in the facility if possible. If they don't have a facility, then maybe they have a dorm room on campus, or maybe they have an apartment they can help with. Some chapters do put them up in hotels if they do not have a facility, but that's expensive and not expected at all. Just she needs to have a clean, private area to stay. The chapter is responsible for budgeting for meals and any other things that they would like to do with her. They should budget for 2 visits a year, but that may not always occur. Sometimes it could be 1. So make sure your VPO involves several committees in her visit. So the PR committee, How, et cetera. And then make sure that the VPO has all of these documents to go over right here. I'm not going to list them out for you. And make sure everyone who is on the schedule is aware of that. So meetings with officers, meetings with Greek Life office, meetings with advisors, et cetera. Just make sure everyone is aware of that. And then also make sure that you do guide your VPO to allow for some free time, because these gals work really hard and they're traveling all year long. So free time is definitely a must. Obviously, we're encouraging them to be gracious. Books, T-shirts, whatever it is that they can afford would be a really nice gesture. And maybe not even books or T-shirts, but maybe it's just going out for froyo or coffee or something sisterly, so that there is something else to do other than talk about that specific chapter 24/7 for, the entire week. I think you guys pretty much understand that, but just want to make sure. And then finally, the leadership guide, which is on the website right here. Sorry, I lost it. Leadership guide goes through everything that we've talked about tonight, again, in more detail if the VPO should happen to need it. And I think most of you are familiar with leadership guides, but it does give an overview of the position. It does talk about the VPO's role and responsibilities, and goes all the way down, to everything else that the VPO should be going through. The calendar, like we just talked about, committee night, like we just chatted, good ideas for committees, et cetera. So I'm not going to go through this in its entirety, but it does list out all of her detail, all of her job obligations, in some nice detail. And then some resources at the end, and that's kind of how all of our leadership guides are, a listing of responsibilities, et cetera, with resources at the end. So that brings me to the end of the leadership guide. And Alicia, I think, is going to wrap it up for us.
Yeah, so just bring us back about where to start. For you guys as PDCs, and really we would say the same things to the chapter, and we said these to the LCs when they were at training school. The chapter survey is the start of the cycle each year, so that has to happen in order for the rest of the process to go smoothly. And that's redistributed to each member, and we'll go from there. for you guys as PDCs, really the place to start is inquiring where they are in this process and whether they've kind of followed along. You may have a chapter that didn't do their chapter survey. So the question is, did they create goals? And if so, where'd that come from, right? If they've created goals, great. You want to work with them, but you want to understand where they came from and why they created that. And maybe that's just because the chapter council thought, well, we thought they were cool goals and we're going to focus on them. So that's where you'd want to have a conversation. Say, well, certainly you'd want to do the chapter survey so that it's not just the chapter council's voice in those chapter goals. Officer transitions, this is obviously always a hot topic, making sure we get our chapter women to transition as smooth as possible, preparing the next officer. The calendar, certainly, you guys, is something that you should have, and being paying attention, mindful for each of your chapters and the budget. Certainly finance issues are never fun, so getting them and making sure that they're on top of that and they're doing that. You guys all have access to Bill Highway, and should you not, you certainly can reach out to headquarters, but you can see all of that stuff for your chapter. So really for you guys, where you start is finding out where they are in this process, and ideally they're kind of finishing up, and maybe they need to, you just kind of checking in their progress as they're finishing up their goals this semester before they enter that process of officer elections and the chapter survey, and preparing them for that next process. So that kind of brings us to our conclusion tonight. Ella, are there questions that we can answer for anybody out there?
No, you guys did a perfect job of explaining it. There are 0 questions.
Awesome.
Otherwise, speak now or forever hold your peace, PDCs. Let us know. You're getting some thank yous, so that's good.
Oh,
Excellent.
You're welcome. Well, thanks for joining us. If you guys have any questions, reach out to your RDC for sure, and reach out for Angela, or I. We're happy to help, and so is Ella. The 3 of us were, working on this project in the last biennium, and, continuing to push it forward this biennium, and really getting all of our chapters there. I think a lot of our chapters are starting to use this process. I think just some of them haven't quite got all the puzzle pieces together, and that's really where we can aim to see 100% of those things completed in this next academic year.
Yes. Well said.
All right. Well, thank you, Alicia and Angela, for presenting tonight. And if anybody has any questions, as they said, go ahead and reach out to any of the 3 of us on here. The 2 of them are kkgrdc1@gmail.com or kkgrdc7@gmail.com. And as I close the webinar, a survey is going to pop up on your screen. You can be prompted to respond to a few evaluation questions, and so go ahead and fill those out and let us know what you thought. Have a wonderful night and a wonderful rest of your weekend. Bye, guys.
Bye.